Good morning, my coolest of kids. How's everybody doing on this bright and already fairly hot out here, judging by the peepers? Listen. Once again, people, those aren't bugs, those are peepers. Froggies up in the trees, little tiny ones. They fill air into their neck, essentially. It looks like a big bubble, and they blow it out slowly and goes, Bee! It sounds pretty cool. But the majority of the time that they're doing that, it actually is signifying that there is going to be a hot day upcoming. I used to think that was just like an old wives' tale or something, but perfectly, it's actually true. It's actually judging on like the time that they got up with how fast it's actually heating up outside as well. Well, I apologize. This past weekend, I wasn't able to get any uploads going. My baby sister, Olivia, is getting married this first week in September down in Florida. So we'll be having some away-from-home videos coming up for some daily doses of positive. But we had her wedding shower this past weekend. Now, I wasn't actually there. It was the girl. It wasn't the Jack and Jill type. It was actually one for this woman, but I was helping set up and, getting all the stuff taken care of. And then we ended up having a big dinner yesterday for a lot of people that aren't going to be able to do the destination wedding. So, very fun-filled weekend, long weekend. Wasn't a bad weekend at all. I didn't have enough time, really, to get any kind of spiffy stories up for you. However, I do have something that I was reading, a story that I was reading just on Saturday, actually, in one of the local newspaper. And, I'm not justifying a lot of these bad stories that are going on with police right now, with the brutality and bad decisions that they're making with their body cams. Like, you're able to see everything that's going on lately and bad things that they've been doing off and on. And, I'm not also saying that criminals aren't doing things that are just as bad. But, some of these stories have people really hating on that thin blue line lately. Well, I actually have a nice little warming story. Now, this is out in Indiana at one of the McDonald's out that way. The local police station gets a phone call from the McDonald's where the supervisor on duty at the time was calling them to notify them that the same homeless guy that had been there for the last week and a half had continuously shaved and cleaned himself up in their local in their bathroom there. And, he'd leave and it would smell of body odor. There'd be hair in the sink and everything. And, they had tried to tell him to leave nicely quite a few times. And not to do that unless he was going to buy something. And he continued not to. So they asked for the police to please come down now while he was still in there so that they'd be able to speak to him when he came out. Because it was supposed to be for customers only. Well, one of the officers went down there, and he did get there before they were done. The supervisor met him outside. They notified him of the situation again there, talked to him about it, and, said the guy was still in there, wait for him to come out. Let him finish this time, but, when he comes out, the police talk to him. Well, as he gets, the man steps outside, there was an ominous odor of, they weren't lying. He did have a nice odor to him. He was ripe. And the officer said, have you been asked to leave? Are you still staying? Have you not been doing what they said for you to do and everything? To which the officer was given a story that turned out to be completely true. This man had actually, fallen on hard times. Him and his wife had gotten divorced about a year before that, and he ended up losing his job from depression. And, he actually got into one of the homeless shelter programs, and they ended up shipping him towns over from where his home was, or any friends were, and anything, in order to give him housing, because the housing over there for the homeless shelters was full. When he got over there, the man didn't know anybody, didn't have any connections, and, even the homeless shelter that he was at, they only guaranteed him housing every other day, because they were, really hard on them as well. So he wasn't able to shower some days, and days that he didn't have money for the soap in there, because it wasn't, he would just go and take a shower without even any soap. Well, the police officer felt for the man. He really did. He ended up looking into his records and everything. The guy didn't have an ID, but he actually remembered his old ID number. He didn't even have the $10 to get a replacement ID. So he gave him, the ID number at the top. The guy looked him up. Didn't have any warrants or anything like that. And the police officer took him under his wing. First off, he brought him to the Social Security office and gave them the photo ID from the print off from his looking him up to get him a Social Security card, and then escorted him over to the DMV in order to in an attempt to get his license back over there. Well, they ended up having to wait for a Social Security card to come in order to have another form of ID on top of a Form 774 that says that he was a resident of the area, so that he would be able to get a new license. Fast forward 2 weeks later, the cop had actually, before no one else had even known, the cop had actually put this guy up in a local hotel the entire time. And he says that, I want you to get yourself straight. Make sure if you're drinking, stop drinking. Get yourself cleaned up, start getting yourself together, and start putting your applications out there, because when this ID comes, I'm going to help you out. Well, 2 weeks later, I don't know how he expedited. I don't know about you guys, but personally, when I get documents back, everything, it takes me a lot longer than 2 weeks to get a Social Security card. The man got a Social Security card 2 weeks later, ended up going to the DMV, getting himself a temporary ID license, and the first place that had actually called him back for a job, that McDonald's. So the police officer was giving this man a ride because the town was very spread out. It was like more like a suburb than an actual city, so the guy was walking everywhere he had to go. The police officer actually drove him there with a Social Security card and the like backup ID kind of thing to the same McDonald's the man had been showering at previously and didn't have anywhere, to go to or anything. And they gave him a job there. They didn't even recognize him because he had long hair. There's the pictures. He had long, shaggy hair and a beard and everything else. He had done everything and changed his entire look. The police officer goes, "Do you know who you just hired?" And the lady goes, No, it wasn't even the same supervisor. Well, the person that had actually called and you guys had said was banned from this McDonald's, that's the man you just hired. And the lady right there was so embarrassed and so upset. She was apologizing. The officer was like, no, I understand, But it just goes to prove not to judge a book by its cover. You don't know somebody's story until you've been there too. You can't judge someone that's on the side of the street asking you for some change before you know how they got there and what they were doing beforehand. What led them there? Not all of them were some drug addict losers who ended up in the ditch, because they deserved it and stole and burned every bridge that they had. Some people just had a hard streak and got placed somewhere that they don't know anybody, and they're just as scared as anyone else, just trying to get by. All they needed is a little helping hand from somebody. And at a time where all the cops are getting all these really bad raps on the horrible stuff that's going on in the news, and they're overstepping their bounds, it really enlightened my heart to hear a nice story like this, where a police officer helped a man, got him a job, even gave him a place to stay for a couple of weeks at one of the local hotels, and got this man on his feet. I'd love to see an update, and I'll get you guys an update whenever I do see one, but, don't judge a book by its cover. Help people that if you have a feeling, odds are they have a feeling for a reason. And that's the epitome what that man did, was putting out those positive vibes, creating himself a positive life. And that is definitely portraying the best possible version of himself. And, staying true to himself as well. Same thing you guys should be doing. Have yourselves a wonderful day.